Welcome back to another playthrough series. We're going to be doing a complete two-player playthrough of Dungeon Command. And we're going to have the Tyranny of Goblins versus the Curse of Undeath. And I can show you those box covers in a minute. And it's basically a puzzle piece board that fits together. So on this side there are the two large tiles, two small tiles for Tyranny of Goblins. And on the right-hand side here we have the two large tiles and two small tiles for Curse of Undeath. And how you put these together, I put them together like this. You can arrange them in different orders if you want, but I just made one board rectangular this way. The starting area for the goblins is going to be here, and the starting area for the Undeath player is up here. There are tokens that go on the board, 6 of them, these little treasure chest tokens, and underneath each one of the treasure chest tokens is a different number, which will indicate how many treasures there are there. And so I'm not going to explain too many rules right now because it won't make a lot of sense till we start playing. But underneath these is a number, and you put that many treasure tokens, which are these, in that space. And if a miniature is sitting on there, they can take an action to retrieve a treasure, which increases a morale of the player by 1. So I'll quickly show you the boxes, cover art for the two packs of Dungeon Command, and then we'll go over to the Undeath area, look at some of the miniatures, the starting cards, and the character. You get 2 of them you can play in each pack, and then after that we'll look at the Tyranny of Goblins, the same thing. So let's quickly have a look at the 2 packs that I'm playing with, and let's take a look at them. Okay, so the first one I'm going to be playing with here is the Curse of Undeath Dungeon Command box. They're pretty thin boxes, but they do the job, and inside they have an insert for all of the different miniatures you get with the game. So this is box 1, the Curse of Undeath. So of course undead, you have an undead dragon. We'll look at the miniatures here in a minute too. Alright, up next is Tyranny of Goblins. Okay, so here we have the Tyranny of Goblins box. Again, different cover art for each of the 5 factions that you can buy for the Dungeon Command game. And again, same type box, fairly thin cardboardy type box, but really nice cover art, and of course it's different on each one. And yeah, the big guy on the goblins is the big demon. They also have a big troll. Alright, let's take a look then directly at the Undeath player, and we'll see what they're going to be starting with and what miniatures they have. Okay, so I randomly chose one of the 2 starting leaders that come with the Curse of Undeath, and I'm going to be playing with Delthrin Everett. And he has a bloodthirsty ability. It says gain a leadership for each enemy creature destroyed during your turn. And you have 2 tracks here on your card. You have morale and you have leadership. Leadership is the number or the level of the monsters that you can deploy to the board. And your morale is the number that you do not want to go to 0, because if your morale goes to 0, you lose the game. And how morale goes down is when a creature is defeated, whatever level the creature was that got defeated. So if it was a level 2 creature, you would go, say, from 12 down to 10. Alright, and the one that I didn't pick was Morgana Vilistova. So you do get 2 in each pack, but we won't be playing with her, so we don't need to bother looking at her. So I'm just going to pan up here a little bit. You can see the miniatures that come with the Undeath. You have a skeletal horseman. I'll look at these in more detail as we place them on the board. You have the nice skeletal dragon, a couple of zombies, a couple of skeletons. You get 12 miniatures in each pack, and they're all pre-painted too, which is kind of nice. They're not just the bland like the Castle Ravenloft miniatures, which are all just the color of the whatever molded plastic. These ones are actually painted, and they're painted fairly well to boot. Alright, so starting hand, this will make sense as we play, don't worry, we'll figure it out as we go. You have a creature hand size, so I am not going to show you these because we're going to be playing the goblins, and we're just going to say our enemy is the undead player. So they start with a creature hand of 3, so they get 3 cards that have creatures on them, representing one of the miniatures, and they can be deployed to the board depending on the number of leadership. And they also have a order hand. These are cards you play that have minor, major standard orders on them, and again will make sense once we get into the gameplay, but I'm not going to show you them. But he only starts with 3. Alright, that is the undead that we'll be playing against. Let's go take a look at our team, which is going to be the Goblins, and I will show you the cards from there. And then after that we will deploy miniatures to the board, and then in the next video we'll actually get to the gameplay. Alright, so over on this side we're going to be playing Tarkon Drawl, and he's an orc leader. Black Hand of Bane. It says whenever an enemy creature cowers, it's a specific thing you can do in the game. You can cower to take no damage. However, you have to lose morale when you do that based on how much damage you take. And we'll get into those rules as we play. Its controller loses 1 extra morale. So if we are attacking as the goblins against the undead and one of their units cowers, they're going to lose morale plus 1 extra morale for us. We start with a morale of 12, a leadership of 8. Alright, I'll just pan up here and we can look at some of their miniatures. We have the demon here, we have the big troll, we have an orc leader, a couple goblins, little goblins, a couple hobgoblins or orcs, I think they're hobgoblins, an orc rider, a wolf, and a hobgoblin mage, I think he is, or a goblin mage. And we start with 3 cards in our hand. So these are the creature cards, and of course they say creature on them. And so for us, as the goblins, our hand is starting with the hobgoblin sorcerer. We have the hobgoblin soldier, 1 soldier, and we have a goblin champion. So just to take a look at the miniatures here, the goblin champion is this little guy winding up for a big overhead cleave into someone's kneecaps. Hobgoblin soldier, I believe they're just these guys with the swords doing a big sweeping stroke, and we looked at that, and the hobgoblin sorcerer is this guy right here. Alright, and again pre-painted, not the most amazing paint jobs, but what do you want? They're nice enough for the miniatures game purposes. So those are the 3 creatures, and of course they have a bunch of details on them. They have so many hit points, they have intelligence, they have traits on the cards, they have levels, so these are all level 3, and they have special text according to which creature they are. So the hobgoblin soldier has no special text. They have a number of damage, it's either melee or ranged. Some have both. The hobgoblin sorcerer has a range of 20, melee 10. Some have special abilities, and they have movement as well. So these guys all have a speed of 6, which means they can move 6 hexes on the board, or 6 squares on the board. There's not a hex board, it's a square board. And it gives you the miniature picture on the card, so you know what it is. So those are going to be our 3 starting miniatures, I guess, that we can deploy, and we have a leadership of 8, so we're going to be able to put out 2 of them up to 6. We can't put out 3 because that would be a leadership of 9. So looking at our cards, we have a Ray of Frost. Now to play this card, the creature has to be at least level 2 and have an intelligence trait. And this would deal 30 damage to one creature within 5 squares. If the target takes damage from this attack, you tap it. And yes, tapping comes from Magic Gathering. And yes, tapping them is turning the card sideways. We have Feral Vitality. Make a melee attack that deals plus 20 damage. And this creature heals 10 damage. This is a standard action, I should mention. Standard actions tap the creature that uses it. Immediate, tough as nails. So remove all cards attached to this creature. Attach this card to the creature instead. And it has some special text on the bottom. This creature gains block 10, prevent 10 damage whenever source deals damage to this creature. So an immediate means you can play it pretty much whenever you feel like. And a minor does not tap the creature that's using it. So we need a level 1 creature that has the charisma trait to be able to play this, and it says shift 3 squares. Shift 3 squares means you can move 3 squares on the board. And you do not have to stop when you're adjacent to enemy units. Normally, if you get adjacent to an enemy unit, you must stop. Unless you're a flying or burrowing creature, then you don't have to. But again, more rules as we play. It says 1 allied creature shifts 3 squares. And last we have Shattered Weapon. It's a standard attack. You can play level 1, any creature can use it. It requires humanoid, well, not any creature. A creature that is humanoid can use this. Make a melee attack that deals plus 30 damage. Then you attach this card to that creature. The creature's melee attacks deal minus 10 damage. So you do one massive blow, which kind of breaks your weapon, and then forever after, as long as the card's attached to that creature, they're going to do minus 10 damage. So those are our starting 5 order cards that we have, and now it's getting time to deploy creatures to the board. So let's go do the undead first, then we're going to deploy our creatures, and then next episode we're going to get right into the gameplay. Alright, so of course this is all part of the setup. So we set up the board. There's a specific way to do it, but I just set the board up like this for ease of filming, and you place out the treasure tokens, and now it is time to deploy creatures. Now Deltharin Everett here has a leadership of 6, so he is allowed to play out a total up to level 6 miniatures, and the first one he is going to play is a skeleton warrior, humanoid undead skeleton, 50 hit points, level 2 creature, does 20 damage when it attacks, no special abilities, speed of 6, and it is one of these. So he is going to be deploying one of these to the board to start off, and you can put them anywhere in the start section. There's a dotted line goes around, so he'll place the skeleton right there. And the only other and second creature he's going to play is a zombie. 40 hit points, does 10 damage, a level 1 creature, has the Constitution trait. Says during your deploy phase, you can pay 1 morale to deploy this creature from your graveyard. So if it's killed, you can bring it back from the dead by paying 1 morale. So that's kind of, it's a pretty weak unit, but you can keep bringing them back. And zombies are these, apparently, which I think were ghouls in the Dungeons & Dragons game, but we're using these in this Dungeon Command as zombies, so we'll put him right beside the skeleton. So that is going to be the starting miniatures that go out, and they're going to be placed face up over on the player area here, so we know that they have them in play. And that's the startup for the undead. So they've got a skeleton and a zombie on the board ready to go. Let's go over to our area and decide which miniatures we want to deploy. So our start area is down here. And I should mention there are terrain symbols on the board. The triangles mean rough terrain. It costs you 2 movement points to move through them. So if you're here and you want to move into the space, it would be 1, 2, and then moving out is 1. So moving into it costs 2, moving out costs 1. That's how I do it. I think that's how you're supposed to do it. The other symbols on the boards, there are squares. These block line of sight, and they also cost an extra movement because it's a door. You're basically opening a door to go through it. So if you're here, it would cost 2 to get here and then 1 to go afterwards. We also have a little triangular symbol, look like a little Klingon symbol here on the braziers, and those are damage. If you move through there, I believe you take 10 damage, and if you stay there, of course, you're going to take more damage. You're basically walking into the fire, so not the greatest, swiftest thing to do. All right, so we do have Hobgoblin Soldier, Goblin Champion, and Hobgoblin Sorcerer to deploy. They're all level 3, and our starting leadership is level 8. So we can play 2 of these onto the board, or 1 or none. It's our choice. But I think we're going to play the Hobgoblin Soldier. We'll get one of them out, and we'll put them right up here, ready to charge in. And why don't we get our Sorcerer going? We will also put him out. So he's going to come out with one of his soldiers. He'll just go in actually he'll go right here, right beside. And we're going to keep the Goblin Champion in our hand for later turns. Okay, that's, I believe, the setup. Let me just pan out here and finish off our setup. Alright, so like I said, it is a 2-player tactical miniatures game with using cards. Oh yes, there's no dice in the game. It's using cards to deploy damage and put units on the board. So, a Dungeons & Dragons game, but no dice. Anyhow, that is pretty much the setup. So we have a skeleton zombie over here with the Undeath player, Deltharin Everett, and we have deployed our Hobgoblin Sorcerer and just a Hobgoblin Soldier ready to go. Okay, next time we'll just roll a die and see who is going to begin the game, and then we'll get right into it. And again, as we play along, we'll try my best to explain the rules of how everything works. I know I glazed over everything very quickly here, but you'll see how it plays as we play and get into the rules then. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Join me next time for turn 1, or part 1, I guess I'll call it. There might be multiple turns involved as we have the Undeath units, or the undead units. They call it Undeath. I think they're undead. Versus us, the goblins. Alright, thanks for watching.